Dambas and the 80s, and welcome to the first episode of Sketchbook Therapy, my series where I fill up my sketchbook and also talk about my experience and thoughts on psychology and mental health. I'm not a professional in any sort of degree. These information are from personal experience only and research I did on my own time. So take everything with a grain of salt and don't judge me too hard. Growing up, I always noticed how different I was from others. I was not aware of it, but there was not a single person in my life who will not make me notice it. I grew up thinking there was something wrong with me, something broken, I might say. Why can't I be like the others? Why can't I do basic tasks? Why is it so hard to talk sometimes? Why am I like this? And one year it just came to me, and I got my answer for it. I'm autistic. Do not get things mixed up. Autism or autism spectrum disorder is a developmental disorder that impacts the nervous system and impairs the ability to communicate and interact with others. By developmental disorder, it means that everyone with different experience might show signs of autism slightly different. That's why I don't look, act, or sound like the 4-year-old cousin of the friends of your aunt's doctor, because we have different experience. So today we are gathered here to hear me ramble about my personal experience of how it was like to grow up neurodivergent without a diagnosis, while I spent time painting with gouache over some of my sketches. If we had to go to the first sign that I was autistic, I think we can go back as soon as I started having bodily autonomy. I started speaking like really early, and by the time I was 3, I had the speech pattern of an educated adult. At 5, I was obsessed over space and started collecting every possible data I knew about. At 8, I read the dictionary from top to bottom, and by the time I was 12, I read every single psychology book there was in my town library. And at 14, I memorized the subway pattern of Tokyo for nothing but funsies. Hearing this, you will probably imagine me as something probably similar to young Sheldon, a big brain genius with just a bit of a sass, who was considered by everyone a genius, who got into the Gifted Kids program and became the next Nobel Prize at 18. Well, it couldn't be more wrong. As soon as I was in kindergarten, teachers started to have a problem with my behavior. And other kids started to call me weird and other ableist slur I will not repeat here. I escaped from kindergarten classes to go play alone with a sensory board that was in the hallway. I got in trouble and got yelled a lot by teachers. Still don't know why they were yelling at me. I had difficulty doing mundane tasks like using cutlery, refused to wear certain types of clothes, and I refused to speak multiple times, either because I was upset or because I simply didn't like the person that was talking to me. I got made fun for playing weirdly. Instead of playing pretend with the other kids, I liked to line up toys or organize them by color. So, by the time I was in first grade, I was completely and utterly alone. I didn't understand the most basic social cues and started to get bullied heavily. And when I said bullied, I mean it, and in the worst way you can imagine. My mom didn't understand what was going on. She got called by the school several times, being told that I had relationship problem with other kids, that I was too different, too weird. too hard to manage. Until that moment, my mom never saw anything wrong with me being different. She always thought that if I was acting a certain ways, it was because for me personally, it was the best way to do something. And there was nothing inherently wrong with that. It was just my way. But when she started witnessing more and more frequent meltdowns and getting called by the schools several times in a week, she started being worried. And you might be asking, but Elia, if your autism signs were so fucking evident, why didn't your parent got you a diagnosis? And that's the thing. See, I was born in the early 2000s in a very small town in the north of Italy. My family didn't even know what autism was. And by the time this word started to float around, it was written in a very ableist way and compared with a very ableist movie that portrayed only a high support need autistic boy. And that, mixed with the fact that I was born a female, led that a lot of my behavior problem got brushed off by doctors. So when I arrived in middle school, I was broken. I was unable to mask properly and so hide my autism to others, and I started being heavily depressed. At 9 years old, I had my first suicide ideation, and by the time I was 12, I tried to take my own life for the first time. This is what growing up undiagnosed do to a kid. Growing up being told by everyone that the thing that makes you is wrong. After that, I tried starting masking or copying others in order to hide my artistic traits better. Not that I was succeeding at it. My depression did most of the work. Since I was the shell of a person, there was not much I could hide. And even if there was something, my classmates had no interest of knowing me, so there was not many occasions that we could talk and I could show my artistic traits to others. I went my last 2 years of middle school without speaking a single word and developed hypersomnia when I arrived in high school. Me and my mom were speaking less and less, and our relationship started to deteriorate. Now I know that she was worried and sort of aware that something has changed in me, but she had no way of knowing what to do. She couldn't believe her kid was mentally ill. Mental illness is stuff from horror movies and insane asylum, where you send ugly people who are a danger to others to be locked up and forget about. Not something your ball of sunshine could have. She sent me to a doctor once who diagnosed me with light ADHD, but she also advised my parents to look more into it and get some more diagnosis or some assessment by other more qualified doctors. And she also advised that I start seeing a therapist to help with my depression. Did my parents listen to her? Nope! Not having any support since no one wanted to help me, and since my mom refused me to send me to an actual therapist, I started doing my own research. Since no one was gonna tell me what was so different and wrong and why everyone hated me for no reason, then I will discover it on my own. From when I was 12 to when I was 15, I read every single psychology book that I could find and every single book in my town library. Surprisingly, not really actually. The only book where the word autism was mentioned was the DSM-4, and I distinctly remember reading the definition and laughing, saying, "This must be wrong. Everyone feels this way.
What the poor naive dingbat did not realize was that most people in fact did not feel that way.
But even now, being sort of aware what was going on, even without the autism part and only with the anxiety and the depression, school was still awful. I developed PTSD and it's something that is still with me today. And if the COVID pandemic didn't took away my last 2 years of high school, I personally don't think I will have survived. So we make a little bit of a skip. We are in 2020 during the pandemic and I'm decomposing on my bedroom floor, scrolling through TikTok when one fateful video comes up on my For You page. It was a simple video, a ADHD put your fingers down type of video with a lot of ADHD symptoms. And I thought, oh, okay, that seems simple enough. So I did that and I put all my fingers down. And at the end of the video, the girl said, "These are not ADHD symptoms, these are autism symptoms." And my brain fucking exploded. I didn't believe it at first because, again, I was shut down when I first proposed it to my parents, so I thought that could not be possible. But I started to look at it again and research about it, and it started to become quite obvious that was the case. I did the autism RADS test online almost as a joke to say, see, I'm not autistic, my family is right. And boom, 207 points. After that, I tried speaking with my mom about my concern and about the fact that I wanted to get a diagnosis and see if that was really the case. And, as always, I might say, my mom didn't believe me and laughed in my face, saying that I should not self-diagnose. I already self-diagnosed myself 3 times, and every time I did that, a couple months later, a therapist or a doctor said, "Yup, you definitely have those." So it's not like I was coming from nowhere when I said that I might have been right. So I went to my therapist and said what was troubling me, and her response was, "Wait, you're telling me you're not diagnosed?" Apparently, she thought it was so obvious that I was on the spectrum that she believed I just didn't get the diagnosis for personal reasons or economic reasons. I was the one to talk to my parents and convince them to finally take the autism assessment test and also schedule the appointment for me. And in January of 2023, after being in a waitlist for 2 years, I finally got my autism diagnosed with a lot of other stuff. My friends like to call it autism premium because I went in expecting and asking for 1 diagnosis and I got out with 5. Jumping from the story on the effect that this diagnosis had on me, I can say that this diagnosis meant so much for me. It helped me give me closure about my past trauma. It wasn't my fault. It was never my fault. It was not because I was not trying enough to fit in. It was not my fault to not understanding other. It was not my fault. I was not being dramatic. It was not being a crybaby. It was never my fault. I was just disabled. I was just different. I was autistic. Since my diagnosis, the relationship with both my parents started also to heal a little bit. My mom started to understand that a lot of behavior that she will frame on me and my dad as asshole behavior were just autistic traits. Me and my dad also started to find a common ground to talk and started to understand each other a little bit better. I'm starting to learn how to unmask without feeling that sheer sense of anxiety when I show others how I really am. And I'm also learning to set clear boundaries and understand my needs. I'm still working on that one. This diagnosis helped me being confident in who I am today. I'm here and I'm a queer, autistic, trans man, and I'm proud of it. To conclude, I hope you liked this first episode and or I hope you liked the sketches that I made. I will love if you comment down below which topic you would like for me to talk about next, and also if you had any question about video or my autism assessment test or honestly anything else. Hope you have a great day and take care of yourself. Remember to take your meds and drink some water, and I'll see you next time.